Okay, we're live, and I am going to be working on my graphic novel that I'm doing with my sister for West Margin Publishing called Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. For anybody tuning in who's curious about my work, you can also check out my graphic novel Two Stories and Jacob's Apartment, which I'll be playing trailers for throughout. Um, and Aside from that, I'm actually working on a process where I'll be able to talk to people while I work. So I'm pretty dead for topics. I have one I might broach uh, that's that should be a lot of fun. Where I'll be hopefully talking about digital versus traditional. Since I've worked in both, and since I'm currently actually working in both. So I'm doing one book very traditionally, and then one book pretty much all digitally. The one that I'm working on these streams is digital, and there's like that big age-old debate. So if I'm dry for topics, that's the well that I'll be dipping from. Um, but for now, let's go ahead and jump into it. And as I said, if you're curious about my other work, Jacob's Apartment, Two Stories, also my music, which is No Saboteurs. We've just released 2 albums on Spotify and on every streaming platform, including Apple Music. So if you really enjoy it, consider picking up both of those albums. Um, if you buy the albums, we actually get paid for it. And if you listen to it, we get paid for your listens. So, and if you do check it out, make sure you let me know what you think, because I'm kind of curious what you guys might think of our weird music. Um, my friend Josh and I write music together. We've done that for years and we enjoy it. And tomorrow I'll actually be doing that as well as my kind of fun hangout with friends for 1 hour kind of thing. Okay, so here's the daily stream. Let's get to it. So over here, you're going to see basically the page. I need to tone this page. This page needs some tones. And this is page 39. And so I need to tone page 39. I don't think I showed this on stream actually. So let's go ahead and look at page 38 too. So that is the page I finished yesterday. And I think I did most of that off stream, but I thought I'd show you guys. Basically, it's them having a conversation. Nice. Gary said, I listened to both albums and enjoyed them a lot. And no lie, yesterday I had a song stuck in my head, couldn't figure out what it was, and realized it was from one of the albums. Awesome. It's great. Excited to hear it. Good evening, Philip. If you want to hop on, feel free. I can send you a link. Just let me know in the chats if that's something you want to do, and I'll shoot it to you on Facebook. But if you're busy, that's cool too. And that goes for pretty much everyone. So if you're listening in and you want to hop on stream with me, feel free. All right. So here we're gonna get into some work. I guess let's read through this page real quick before we get into the toning of the next page. Dreamer in the Multiverses of Madness. What an awesome username you have. Hello. That is the coolest. That's a great username. All right. And if we are in a multiverse of madness, that is a very rad name. That's all I have to say. Okay, so let's see how it's going. And while I'm ramping up, I'll read through this page just so you guys know where we're at in the story. Oh, and then Philip said he can hop in a bit. So let me go ahead and copy this and invite him in. Let's see here. Philip. Okay. Sent you the link, Philip. Welcome everyone else to the stream. Welcome, Paul. Paul, if you want to hop in, I can send you a link. If it's weird hours for you, don't worry about it. But if you want to, just say the word and I'll throw you a link. All right, here we go. So it's panel 2 here is saying they say he levitated. They're talking about this guy, Daniel Douglas Home. They said he levitated out a third-story window. Surely you do not believe such ungodly nonsense, Ba. And Ba is the nickname that they have for Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And then Elizabeth is saying, I have heard the most astonishing stories, and I must see for myself. And then Arabelle, her sister, says, you cannot approve of this. And he says, this is Robert saying, I see no reason why we should not witness the exploits of the famous Mr. Home. If we can find the time, distractions is the enemy of the poet, or of these two undisciplined poets anyway. So that is where we're at. So now on number 9, on page 39, we'll kind of get into it. But they're talking about going to see a seance, and then it gets into a conversation about her terrible father, and then there's like a promise at the end. And I don't like this tangent, so I'm going to correct it right now. Let's see if we can go ahead and correct that tangent. Okay. This is a multi-pronged correction that needs to happen here. So I'm going to erase these. I'm going to go to my lines and just go ahead and snip this little section. Let's get to it here. There we go. A little bit better. And I'll fix that lip. Boom. Okay. So lock, and then we're getting into it with our shading layer. All right. I'm excited. This should be fun. Paul says he's in. So I'm gonna go ahead and invite Paul to the stream as well. Should be a fun one. Paul's been popping up on a lot of streams. I feel like I just saw you recently on whose stream were you on? I think you were on Marsh Makes Comics stream. Anyhow, I sent you a link. Okay, here we go. Pretty good times. Okay, so let's get into shading, and I'm going to start talking a little bit about digital versus traditional. I tend to prefer traditional work. Let's see here. Corey said he's out of town, but he's going to jump on next week. That's pretty cool too. Okay, so I tend to be a big proponent of like traditional work. I really enjoy the look of a traditional line. The thing I usually don't like about digital is that everything tends to kind of come out looking a little blurry and digitally. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's like a specific kind of generic digital look to digital art that I'm not a fan of. And I think anyone that I say that to would know what I mean, but just to like clarify it a little more, like when you look at a piece and the whole thing looks kind of blurry and there's no point of focus, it all kind of looks like it was made with like a oil paint brush or something like that. Oh, here's Paul to join too. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Good. How's it going, Josh?
Pretty good, man. Just gonna get into toning this page.
Cool.
Hoping to knock it out during this stream. We'll see how far I get.
Good.
But I was just talking about kind of traditional versus digital, and like kind of where I stand on it. Do you have any thoughts on like digital and traditional?
Oh yeah, I mean, I got rid of all my traditional art stuff when I got my iPad, and I enjoy doing digital. But it's not the same. It's not exactly the same. There's a certain look that you don't get, and a certain experience that you don't get doing digital. So, but I prefer digital just because it's faster.
I agree.
It depends on what you're going for, though. So like if I produce one of my graphic novels digitally, I don't have any of the artwork to give to or sell or anything like that. So.
Yeah, that's a huge point about traditional stuff where you'll have an original page to kind of sell. For me, it's like there's definite convenience to digital, but like for me, when I like digital is when it looks traditional. I don't know if that makes sense. It's
Oh,
like I like digital stuff, but I feel like if you're gonna do digital, it's just my own. I
mhm,
shouldn't say you. I should say me.
mhm,
I kind of feel like if you're gonna do digital, it's helpful to figure out what you're trying to mimic. Like,
mhm,
um, because I think otherwise you can just look it again. It'll have like what I was kind of describing as like this like everything being kind of blurry without a point of focus. It can
uh-huh,
kind of look that way with digital, but the most effective digital art I've seen tends to like pick a medium. Like, are you doing cell shading? You know, because if you're doing
mhm,
cell shading, you need like kind of hard edges. Um, are you doing like acrylic painting? Are you doing
mhm.
oil painting? Like, I think picking a medium that you're mimicking is really helpful for digital art to kind of work. That's my own theory on it, you
Are
know.
you? Is it digital art that you're trying to make look traditional that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at is
Oh,
like
gotcha.
I
Okay.
think I think in order for me, what I feel, at least for my own art, is like I think in order for me to do digital and do it well, I have to kind of figure out what traditional medium I'm trying to mimic with the
Yeah, gotcha.
digital. And then give it limitations, because I think sometimes like without a limitation, it can just be like insanely weird looking, you know? I don't know
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah. No, of course. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever successfully tried to mimic traditional because I've never really successfully done traditional. I've just been digital mostly. So
Well, I think you do it pretty well. I mean, so we're out of curiosity, like were the Detective Perez, were those digital? All digital or
no, the first one was on just typing paper, pen and paper,
nice.
and then but I scanned it in, um, and then just colored it. They're grayscale or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but yeah, that I did digitally, but the drawing was on typing paper. So um,
Cool.
they're
That's rad.
they're 5 by 8 pages. So the pages are 5 inches. I mean, you know this, Josh, but for those that don't, they're 5 inch by 8 inch pages. Each page it typically has 3 frames to it. So it's not your traditional comic book, you know, size. It's more
Yeah,
not like a paperback novel size, which you know.
which is kind of perfect for like a detective story, you know. It'd feel weird reading like I guess, you know, you have like Sin City and stuff like that, but it's like
Yeah,
I feel like, you know, your book has such a like pulpy kind of vibe to it that it's kind of like the perfect format and
yeah.
size, you know.
Thanks. That's what I was going for. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's something you can, you know, have in your pocket and go to the park and read and wonder who done it kind of thing, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's what I was going for. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, but like for me, that's one thing that's helped me. Like even with this book, it's like I'm mimicking pencil, and so it's
Right.
like, and I'm trying to kind of get the look a little bit of what you'd get if you were kind of doing a somewhat quick, you know,
Mhm.
rendering with like a black Prismacolor pencil,
Right.
and like that's kind of the look, and then it's overlaid over flats that I'm in my head imagining are like cell shading, so they're going to be really solid edged shapes, you know, like um I, to me I think like I don't know, I think people's digital output would come out like way better if they consciously were just like, okay, I'm doing this in pastels, or I'm doing this in
Yeah.
like
Oh,
they,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, if they like figure out what they're
So,
mimicking.
so what are your limitations here that you're putting on yours?
So with this it's like one is that I can't go so far in the rendering that it starts looking like, you know, this masterfully rendered thing. Like
Okay.
I'm only going like maybe halfway
Okay.
with my rendering. So
Hmm.
that's one, and that's more just for time and
Hmm.
also just for I think for aesthetic, cuz I think if I go
Right.
too far it'll just
Yeah.
look like, you know,
Hmm.
kind of almost like, I don't know. I don't want to say too good, but
Yeah.
I think that is possible to kind of over render something.
Hmm.
Um, so there's a couple things. It's like in my imagination, I'm doing this with, uh, like pencil, and then I have flats that I can use for color. I'm allowed to do color holds on the line if it's water or sky. Um, so
Color
that's
hold
like,
on the line. Oh, so color the lines.
yeah. So color holding is just when you take your black line and change it to a different color.
Okay, gotcha.
That's I think the term, I haven't looked into how that originated with colorists, but
Hmm.
I think it used to be a process where you'd literally block, like when you were doing the like a stat cam. I think they would
Hmm.
actually block the area of black that they would literally hold that area of color. Um,
Okay.
and so I think it comes from like a traditional process. I'd love to talk to like a really old school colorist who knows like why it's called color holding.
Yeah.
um, but so I'm allowed to do two color holds. Like I'm allowed to kind
Uh-huh.
of do them on water or sky. So that basically means I have like two colored pencils that I can use,
Right.
other than black. And then aside from that, I'm allowed to use white, but white pencil for like light if it's necessary. But if it's not,
Okay.
if that'll mostly be for like
So,
outdoor.
so other than these colored pencils, you're just doing just doing coloring by flats.
Yeah, exactly. And they have to be
Oh,
like just strict flats, like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So that's kind of
that's
my
really
limitation.
neat. Yeah, that's neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like to do that before a project. I think all of us do this a little bit. Maybe not, but
Yeah.
it's
No,
like when you,
now that you mention it, the last few like short comic books that I've done, I definitely do that.
yeah.
I just set out. This is my process, right? These are the elements that I'm going to use to produce this, and then I stick with that throughout. You know, and I've been
Yeah.
very for some special effects or something. If I want something to really stand out, I'll break the rules. But
Yeah. I think a lot of comics are that. It's like kind of like, I think comics are sometimes what you limit yourself with rather than what you
right,
like enable yourself to do. It's like, at
yep,
least I don't know. There's that long, you know, long drowned out thing about style, right? Where it's like,
yeah,
a long conversation about like how do you find your style and all that.
yeah,
But I think that's part of it, is like a style
yeah,
is kind of like what your limits are. Like what are
yeah.
your self
That's
limits?
interesting. Yeah, Marshall and I were talking about style the other day, and we really didn't touch on that
Yeah.
um, piece of it. But yeah, that is, that determines it a lot. What you limit yourself to. Like for Detective Perez, one of the things I did was limited myself on time.
Yeah.
It was 240 pages. You only have so much time per I don't want this thing to take as long as a Joshua Kemble novel.
Well,
So,
I'm hoping this one won't take as long as the Joshua Kemble novel.
but,
We'll see, but
yeah, so you have to, like you said, limit the amount of rendering that you do, or, I made mine just real cartoonish.
yeah.
But yeah, it's that gives it a certain style, and yours certainly has a style here.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
there's like a look that I'm going for that I think
yeah,
if I broke those rules, it's not going
right,
to be quite
right,
as appealing, because
yeah,
it's like it's got to have some limitations to it to kind of succeed.
right.
Um, and so it's almost like, what I think. So the thing I'd caution people if they're doing digital work is like, don't be the guy who did like the airbrush, like be the good airbrush artist who used masks and stuff like that when you were airbrushing, and like
Hmm.
if you're doing the airbrush in the 80s. But there was that guy, at the mall who would do like an airbrush t-shirt, and we all know what that looked like, right? It'd just be like this blurry mess of a coloring. um And it's like, I think a lot of people will make that mistake sometimes. That's the one thing I see a lot when people are first trying digital. It's like they don't realize what makes the digital art really successful. Not saying that I'm like great at it, but I do think one thing that helps is like I always try to think like, what are my limitations?
Right.
Because like without limitations, it's kind of like a non-limited color palette where you've got like, if you don't limit your color palette, like, dude, everything you make could look like just a rainbow like threw up on your page,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So pick out your tools beforehand, set them out on your digital virtual
yeah,
desk, and stick with those. Your 3 colored pencils, your
yeah,
flats. Mm. Yeah. That's
yeah, and
cool.
I think for me too, like trying to like when I'm doing the toning on this too, I'm also trying to keep it relatively big, like not get real thin with like what I'm toning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helps too to kind of like create like hopefully a coherent style, with it.
Yeah. You're talking
Um
about like the size of your pencil there?
yeah, like I don't want it to get too
Right.
tiny. Like it can get small, but not like microscopically small.
Right. So then you have a bunch of strokes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's like more of like a wash of tone rather than like,
Yeah. No, you're
just
pulling it off for sure. But yeah.
trying.
Yeah. That's definitely lends itself to a certain style, I guess. Yeah.
But I also think that's one of the mistakes people will make when they work digitally or traditionally. It's like I think if you can do one, well, you can probably do the other well. Like it's like if you apply the same thinking that you're applying when you're doing traditional to digital, I think you'll be okay. Like the reason I say this is like so like for instance like a digital painting, it helps a lot if you're like I'm working in oils or something, right? Because if you're
Mhm.
working in oils, then you're definitely going to be working dark to light. like
Okay.
so you're going to be laying lighter color over dark color because you can't
Right.
kind of do the reverse with oil very well.
Okay.
Right. And so it's already telling you it's going to be dark to light, and then it's probably going to be like thicker in the light areas than it would in the dark, right? Because dark
Mhm.
washes can be thin washes and stuff like that,
Right.
and you're
Right.
working to a thicker medium. So when you're working digitally on something that you want to have look like oil, it just helps to like work in the method that
To
it's going to
follow the
start
same.
looking like a weird digital painting if you're doing an
Yeah.
oil painting and suddenly you just put dark over
Yeah.
light, right?
It's
Because then it
funny. I
starts
never
looking
thought
digital.
about that. That's wild. But I
Yeah.
had never done. I've never done. I think I don't even know that rule about oil because I think when I was a kid I did some oil painting, but
It's a good
so
it's just yeah, it's just
I
good to
don't.
like kind of dissect the medium,
But the
Gary
funny
was
thing
saying
is,
he
Josh, is that digitally I've never done oil either
yeah.
because I don't. I think instinctively I probably don't understand it. Because I'll resort to pastels and pencils and watercolor on
Yeah.
really.
Which
Huh.
I think you do really well.
Hmm.
Let's see. Gary said I tend to approach D versus M as if I was doing it with a brush tip and microns. Exactly. And like I do notice, I think that Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in versus M, I noticed too that like you have a certain type of taper that your line is doing that's like consistent. Like it's a consistent line weight. It almost seems like you've limited your line weight as well, and like you're kind of working with similar line weights and stuff like that. So it's weird, but it's like I think in the debate between digital and traditional, I think like the people who really hate digital art might not hate it as much if more people started approaching digital art like in a similar way that they'd approach traditional. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
and obviously, enjoy the fruits of like being able to do edit undo.
Oh my
um
God. Yeah.
Although that's the thing too, that I can work relatively quickly traditionally. And sometimes digital can slow me down a bit just because of the eternal undo problem, where it's like you can always get it a little better,
Yeah, I think I get stuck in that too sometimes.
How do you kind of avoid, because you have a pretty high output, like how do you avoid well, you said time limits. I'm kind of curious about that. How did you set time limits when you were working on the Detective Perez stuff and then
Well, I just had like page output goals, and I would get up in the morning and work on it, and I'd have like an hour or 2 hours, and I would want to get a page done, just things like that. So
that's pretty impressive though. Some of those pages were done in an hour?
oh no, I mean, some of them are, but yes, some of
That's
them
pretty
probably
impressive.
probably 2 or 3 hours is probably the longest I spent on any page. So
Wow. Well, you're, you
yeah,
know, a quick
they're
cartoonist then.
thanks. They're pretty. They're not like for those that haven't seen it, they're nothing like the pages that you're doing in here or in two stories, but um yeah, they're just real simple. Usually three. That's another thing that helped. I had it laid out. I stuck 3 frames per page, except when I wanted to vary, to deviate from that for a page to stand out. Like I wanted the pace of it to slow down or speed up,
Yeah.
depending on. So I don't know if I pulled it off. It's been a while since I've done those, so
I'm
I want to do another one, but
I might have to like take a tip from that and like do bigger panels. Like if I, especially when I'm done with this in Two Stories book 2, so 20 years from now,
uh-huh,
um, I do kind of want to do an all ages book. And I
uh-huh,
think all ages in itself like would really be helpful to have like like very big panels, like and
mhm,
limit to like maybe 4 panels a page or something as like
yeah,
the starting point.
right,
Because right now it's like my basic grid that I've been building both this story as well as Two Stories is like more of a 9 panel grid structure. So
right,
like the default is like 9 panels a page, which is a lot of panels on a page,
yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's going to definitely extend the time to do the work, Whereas I think you're definitely onto something with that, like limiting the amount of panels is pretty smart move.
Well, I mean, I like the 9 panel, grid.
Nice. So what's your creative projects right now, Paul? What are you
I'm
up
working
to?
on this samurai tie animation, which
It
I
looked so cool, the preview you gave us the last time you were on, man.
thank you. Yeah, right now I'm doing some of it's real. Um, I use Flash, and some of it I'm just doing. They're called tweens, where you just move objects, But some of it I'm doing traditional like frame by frame animation, and I'm working on a scene right now. There's probably 40 or 50 frames that I have to draw the guy moving, traditionally. So, meaning I draw the whole figure moving.
So
And
how did you end up getting to know this guy, the Ty? Like how do you get to know him?
oh, he's just a real outgoing guy. He sells his wife designs these wild hats that she uses from recycled, not recycled, but like uh, fabric that she reuses. I can't remember the name of it, but you don't throw away the fabric. You just take it and she makes a hat out of it, right?
Got
So
it.
she does this and he sells them, but then he does art. He makes art. He's just into art. So he saw one of my animations one day, gave me a call, and him and I just started talking. And next thing you know, I'm kind of doing a comic book for him, doing some animations, and yeah, it's just he he look, this is me. He had this made for me.
That's amazing.
So yeah, this is completely awesome.
Is that like custom made? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. He didn't make it, but he had a friend of his make it. So
That's pretty incredible, dude.
gathering dust. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, he's just real creative, and he pushes me to be creative, and pushes me to. He's like, "Hey, how's it coming on that?"
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that animation's looking like really smooth too. The thing I saw, I think that you showed was like definitely a lot of in betweens for sure on it. It was like the silhouettes fighting.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Well, the silhouettes were fun to draw because you just, you're gonna just kind of do the figure and then fill it in.
Yeah.
That's easy. So yeah, I've thought, I need to just have silhouettes fighting. This will be easy. But then I have this one scene that, let me see if I can show you.
Because it looked almost like very like slick in like a Cowboy Bebop, the original like Cowboy Bebop credits kind of way,
Yeah. Let me see if I can see if you can see this one.
Oops. All right, you guys, we're gonna get a little sneak peek at the thing Paul is hard at work on.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it or not that far.
I'm amazed your G5's still kicking, man.
Oh man, this computer's from 2005. Let me back. Oops.
Because that was my I had that exact machine
Oh really?
for a while. Back in 2005, I think.
See that? Can you see that?
No, I just see white. Oh, I saw a face for a second there.
Yeah, so I do like the green. It's like kind of like the pencils. I don't know if you can see the green.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not.
Can you?
Yeah, it's not translating.
Yeah, it's too bright.
Yeah, it's probably too bright to show. But I did see like the head show up there, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm ready to be done with it. It's a lot of work, So, and then from there, I think I'm going to do another Detective Perez. So.
I would love it. I'm still only halfway through the first one, and in fact, maybe I'll read that tonight because it's such a fun read. But I'm excited that I have one waiting after I finish the first. It's exciting, and it's a fun story. Like and the cartooning's strong. It's like you might have been doing them quick, but you're definitely using a lot of like it. I just want to tell people, I guess, that like those Perez things, they're not bad books. They're not like crapped out. Like they're really well drawn, and the cartooning in them is pretty excellent. So, and the writing is solid. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of like filler or anything with the story. It's got like some meat to it.
Yeah, I feel like I got a good one. I could, I feel like I can build upon what I've done in the past. So
yeah, I mean, they're solid books, so like a third would be really exciting. Like I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about finishing that one. Actually, that's the one thing I'm supposed to be doing that anyway, like doing some more stuff for fun. Because I tend to just work. This is like, it's funny. I recently, because of like the thing I talked about with like a little bit of a mental breakdown a couple days, like not days, but like a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
They have me talking to a therapist, and that's kind of my homework, is to actually do more stuff for fun that's not work. And I was trying to kind of explain to him, and I think he kind of understood it, but I was like, the weird thing about being an artist is that is my fun. Like that is my fun. Right. Like that's, it's like, they're like, well, you got to have your thing like working on a car or like whatever. And I'm like, no, this is my car. This is the car I'm working on.
Yeah. No, I totally get it, Josh. I have had my issues as well. And now what I do is I watch, sounds bad, but I watch TV. I'll watch a movie, and it's to say stop and don't do anything. And it's fine. You're fine. You don't have to produce
Is it Is it hard to do still though? Because like for me, that's really hard to do.
No, I know. In fact, it's way too easy to do. Like, I'm like I'll just go lay down in the bed and watch TV. And but it's good. It's good to for me it has been. I don't know if I've ever shared with you my story.
No, but I mean, as long as you're cool with sharing it, I'm down to hear it.
Gosh, how long has it been? 9. Well, I did Detective Perez. I finished in 2011. So I was taking art semi-seriously then, but it was a weird kind of confluence of events. I decided to take art a lot more serious right at the same time I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And
Oh man.
so that was kind of a gut punch. And but they gave me so I went in to see the doctor, and the doctor says, do you like to gamble? And I'm like, no. He said, do you do like online shopping? No. He said, do you chase women? And I'm like, no, this is getting weird. What's going on? And he said, we just have to get an idea of where you're at, because the medication we're giving you sometimes can make people like obsessive over certain things. So we needed a baseline of where you at so that you can. So anyway, what happened was I started on this Parkinson's medication, and I became obsessed with art. So I was, I had all the bad side effects from this medication, but one of the fun things was I was just obsessed with art. And those few years that before I crashed and burned, I learned a lot. I produced a lot and made some animated movies, and yeah, I did just a ton of artwork, and it was a blast. But then I, kind of just I burned out and got depressed and started having problems. And then I ended up going off that medication. That was a great thing. And now I'm just a lot more steady and balanced, back to feeling like myself. So someday those obsessive times that I was up all night long, working on projects and things. But yeah, I've learned I feel like myself. I've always been fairly balanced, and so yeah, now it's a steady. I don't output as much as I'd like to. It's fun being able to get things done, and I'm like learning to say, you know what, it's okay if I haven't done anything in a long time, it's fine. So I don't know if you can relate to any of that, but that's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can. I think it's just interesting because it's like, I don't know, when you're asked a question where somebody's like, if you had nothing holding you back, what would you do today? And for me, it's always like, I'd be working on comics. Like that's my favorite thing to do. But yeah, I do think like a healthy balance to it's good. And also definitely like setting limits, that are reasonable. So I think before, I had like this ridiculous thing where I'm like, oh, well, I can get to bed by like 2. And I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I know like even Jim was kind of teasing me about it. He's like, dude, that's not a good work, a habit.
Yeah, I was marveling at you there for a while. I was thinking, wow, this is real,
Yeah, and I mean, it's okay to like go a little late, but I mean, if I'm like sacrificing sleep at some point, that starts kind of. I think that's part of what led to like my kind of issue was like just not really getting a lot of sleep,
Yeah,
and so now it's like I have a more reasonable deadline for myself, which is like 11 o'clock, and then I'm out. Like regardless, like 11 o'clock's my cutoff. And then I'm going to do my workouts in the morning just to make sure, because that was the other part of the crazy cocktail, I think, was the fact that like I'd stopped exercising because it was just like every waking minute doing comics, which again, like, you can do for a little bit, but you need to be able to kind of sustain whatever you're doing, which I'm usually a much better at telling other people than myself, where it's like you gotta find balance and stuff.
I've always had sports is I like to play basketball and soccer as something to to ground me, I guess. But I can't do it hardly anymore, and so I'm struggling in that area. It's not good to just be completely sedentary. I was so yeah, I got to find something there.
Yeah, I mean, what I did a long time ago that's the best thing I've ever done was getting a rowing machine. And it's like, for some reason, there's something about that particular exercise that I'm like super into.
No,
Um, and it's brutal. I don't enjoy it. Like, I kind of don't enjoy exercise. I
right.
could I could enjoy exercise if you're playing a basketball game. At least there's kind of a fun goal to it, you know.
Well, here's the
But
thing about here's something to think about, Josh, with the
yeah,
things like the rowing machine or running or you know, I got an exercise bike. Things that don't occupy your mind.
yeah,
What are you going to sit there and do? You're going to think about drawing.
yeah,
So for me, like that's why I like team sports, playing basketball or soccer. I have, it's a social thing too.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
to it just takes my mind away from everything,
Yeah, that is great. I
Yeah. So,
I think for me, I like rowing because I can put on like a show or something like that, and it's
okay.
like or like again like it actually can be good to think about drawing and stuff because it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the one moment where I'm not doing that, so it's
Right.
like
Right. Yeah.
um
Yeah. If you can take that time to and use it like that, that's awesome.
yeah, I'm trying. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm gonna try to do that in the morning, which
Right.
freaks me out because I'm such a night person. It's weird to me the idea of doing that in the morning, but I think just with my schedule, that's probably the best time to do it, you know. And
Yeah.
honestly, it does kind of set your day right
Yeah.
if you've like exercised in the morning and then you're kind of heading
And
like
I'm not a doctor, and I'm not usually like one to be doling out advice, but
yeah, yeah.
don't kill yourself on the rowing machine. It doesn't take much. Just take it easy.
Oh yeah, I'm not doing hardcore at all. In fact, because I was doing it like pretty much daily before, I was up to the point where, and this isn't a lot, I was doing like a mile a day,
Hmm.
which is just just enough. And then I got up to like a mile and a half a day, and now I'm starting real light, so I'm doing about like a half mile,
Right.
and then hopefully I can kind of
Slowly.
get up to doing about a mile a day.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to kill myself over,
Since
health
it's
and
gotta
fitness.
be
The
like the
whole
most boring topic we've spoken about on this
That's
stream.
true. I'm not really super into exercise either, but I was excited about just kind of like figuring out a schedule that would kind of work that way, you know.
The last thing I'll say on it is the sleep thing. I've always been, marveled at people that can like go on no sleep. And I always try for years and years, I pushed myself. I thought if you're passionate about something, you don't need sleep. And then, through all my physical ailments and things, I've just decided, you know what, I'm old. And to get through the day, I need rest. So now I get enough sleep and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like I can get through a whole day and not get sleepy. If I go to bed on time, that
Yeah.
hour or two that I was living, in those waking hours, there was nothing good going on there for me. So, if I
Yeah.
go back to when I was younger and get enough sleep, I would because I think your quality is better.
Yeah, I agree. You're more alert. Like right now, because I exercised and then I also slept, it's like I am in the zone with like doing this stream and working, and I can kind of do that functionally.
Yeah,
Whereas like before, it's like I'd just be kind of half pacing through the day, like and working really hard, but like,
yeah,
working hard stupid versus working hard smart are like two different things, you know?
yeah. And
Um,
this is much more enjoyable. When you're
Yeah, yeah, and I don't
struggling to
I
stay awake. So
yeah, yeah, and I think that, like, that's just something I gotta get better at is, like, listening to when my body's like, "Nope, dude,
it's
this,"
hard. It's
it's just part of getting older too, I'm imagining, but I also think, like, even though you were saying, "Hey, this is a boring topic," I don't know, it's pretty relevant to, like, creatives, you know?
I imagine most artists struggle with this some form of what we're talking about, or maybe
Yeah.
struggle, but have had to master it.
Yeah, and I think because of the fact that like we're usually pretty high on our EQ, like we have pretty high emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And so you kind of have to write stories, right? You have to be able to empathize with people who aren't you.
Yeah.
And because we're like these empath type people, it's like the 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 vulnerability that we have to like really serious mental illnesses is pretty severe. Like we're prone to that kind of thing. I think most artists are, most creatives. So like what one thing that's really common for mental illnesses and ticking up like whatever they are and kind of aggravating both physical and mental illnesses is not getting sleep or exercise. Like those are like the two
Yeah.
the two things that can drive you like even
Me,
into worse shape.
yeah. You get exercise, you sleep well, right? At the end
Yeah.
of the day, you're pooped, and you fall asleep and you sleep great, and then you feel alert, but you got to exercise, you know. So it's kind of it starts, you can build on that, you know.
Yeah.
You can also spiral downward too. So
Yeah, it doesn't take much. I mean, for me, it just took a couple months of not really sleeping.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're better, man. Just the short time you were out, I really missed you.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird one. That's a new experience too. I've never actually been at a hospital on like a 72-hour hold, and I wouldn't recommend it. It felt really very strange. But I will say, like, it's nice having a therapist. It's nice kind of like working through some of these things and like
Mhm.
and honestly it's just like nice to have like some more reasonable expectations. Hang on, I gotta say good night to my son.
Oh, of course.
Night, Ben. Night. Need a high five. Oh, I need another high. Oh, I need a big hug.
Good night.
Ah.
Good night, Ben.
Paul said good night.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Good night. I don't know if you could hear that. He said good night back.
Yeah, he's a cool kid.
Yeah, he's the raddest. I'm a big fan. I'm a little biased though because I'm his dad, so that can make you.
Cooler, I can tell you.
But objectively, he's a really cool guy. Like he's a cool little kid.
Yep.
Always doing creative stuff. I love the age too. Like
Oh yeah, that's the best age. Yeah,
it's
that's the
pretty
best
cool
age.
too. Like the other day, he was like, at school, I read this really cool book, and he started describing it. And we're like, oh my gosh, he just like on his own, like started reading White Fang on his breaks. And I'm like, and he's really into wolves. And I was like, that's a perfect book for him to read. But it's like weird because he's finally at that age where like he's finding it himself. He's like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
didn't get him that book.
yeah. They start to develop their own life,
Yeah,
with
it's
it
kind of magical.
involved, and it's scary, but it's also.
Gary was saying I got to pick up the other Detective Perez. Yes, you do. I think Paul would like that.
Yeah. So I think Gary may have read the first one, and I was kind of like dreading Gary reading it because it's got some police procedural stuff in there, which I'm sure is probably all wrong. And, so
Hey, if Gary enjoyed it and wants to pick up the second one,
he didn't say whether he enjoyed it or not.
That's true. That's true. Gary, did you enjoy it? But Gary said an artist would notice that he has set line widths to emulate using microns with fixed widths. Nice.
My favorite pen back when I was doing Detective Perez, I still have one.
Oh, Gary was also saying regarding sleep, if I get less than 6 hours, I feel like I'm going to die. Oh, I'm curious if you have originals, Paul. Do you still have original pages?
I don't think so. Shoot, and I don't have one of those pens anymore. Darn. It's one of those flare markers, felt tip markers, flare.
Oh, nice.
I mean, a lot of different artists like that pen.
And then Gary was saying, I think we have a tendency to overwork and romanticize overwork, and in a small way, you have to. Most of us are doing a day job and then basically a second job at nights and weekends. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, I certainly romanticize about my all-nighters, doing animations and things, but it kills me,
There you go, by the way, Paul.
Yeah.
Can't dodge out of this compliment now. Gary said he did enjoy it, and
Thank
he's
you,
going to buy the other one.
very kind.
That's good. I mean, if you were talking about police procedural stuff and it wasn't a high fantasy, then maybe it would be difficult. But you take a lot of liberties in it, like in the book, like for fun. It's a very fun book. Like,
No, vampires are real.
and honestly, that's the only thing I felt like. You didn't have your vampires sparkle. What's going on, Paul? Do you remember when that first came out? That made me so mad. Like I tried to watch that movie with my wife, I think, and I just couldn't get over sparkle vampires. I was like, I can't do it.
The what's it called? The Batman guy was in it.
Yeah. I just couldn't do that series.
I haven't seen any of that. No, I haven't seen any of that.
Well, they have vampires that sparkle like they're covered in glitter.
Yeah.
That's just not my kind of vibe of vampire.
No. My thing, the reason I have vampires in the Detective Perez book is because as a kid, to me, vampires were just terrifying. They're the scariest thing. Like my favorite vampire story is just like at the end of Interview with a Vampire, where you think you got them all, they're all gone. And then you're getting away, like there's two people driving in the woods, driving in their truck or something, and they're like, oh, we lost all our friends. Everybody got killed, but we got all the vampires, And his friend looks over at him and goes, ah!
Exactly.
And that's the end of the movie, right? Oh, that's so scary, man, So I kind of wanted to try to capture a little bit of that feeling in the book.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula too, like the book. It's just a great book. It's a lot of fun. It's like it's very horrific. Like I still love that book because it's told like kind of like in the way that I tell two stories. It's almost like that, but it's just like in the sense of like it's written as as if it's like diary entries.
Okay.
And I just think that's like a brilliant
Yeah.
take on it. The other thing I like about Bram Stoker's Dracula that I don't know, this is my own opinion on vampire stuff, but I'm like, if you're going to have vampire stuff, the thing that's great about Bram Stoker's Dracula and the original kind of way people would become vampires without the Anne Rice like needing the special, thing where you've got to like drink the blood of a vampire or something that it's willingly given you to become a vampire. I like the threat that no, it's just they bite you and you're a vampire. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like
it's the scary part. Yeah.
That's kind of what's so terrifying about vampires, right? Because there's this ominous threat that they could actually just become like every human being on the planet could get vampirized,
Yeah. No, I heard this great explanation from this one. I was listening to this, the guy who made, anyways, let me tell you this explanation about, he did like this whole scientific explanation on vampires.
I love it. Let's hear it.
So like, you'd think like as a vampire, you would just, they're super powerful. They prey on humans. They would just take over the world, right? But that doesn't actually make any sense. Vampires are more like if you go to the African, in Africa, they have the lions and the gazelles, right? The gazelle population is huge. And then there's a few lions. If the lions just ate all the gazelles, then the lions would die. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same concept with vampires and humans. The vampires, they're real discerning when they feed on humans. And then so they might go for a long time. That's where they have the long sleep, and they go into slumber for centuries or whatever. So anyway, what happened was, before, back in the caveman days, you had vampires, a small population of vampires that were powerful and really ruled the earth, but fed on the humans who, populated the earth. Well, humans then started, thriving more and more, started developing agriculture and things like that, started building buildings. Okay. And in nature, there's no such thing as a right angle, right?
Nice.
But when humans start building buildings, they build buildings and they use right angles. Well, in right angles, is what you see when you see a cross, right? And that's why vampires are right angles will send a vampire into like an epileptic seizure, because they can't, for whatever reason, their brain can't handle it or something. So anyway, that's when vampires. So that's how humans figured out crosses are what they use to fend off vampires.
That's great.
Anyway, there's a whole bunch more to it that I thought was, I just thought it was so cool when he explained it, but went through the history of then vampires, went into this deep sort of, when they slumber, that they became dormant or whatever, but now are
dude,
figured out how to get by without getting epileptic seizures from these. He went into the whole garlic thing and the other, the wooden stake through the heart, all the different vampire lore type stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, scientific explanations behind all of it, So when I was listening to that, I was just like, this is the best thing ever.
That's amazing. Do you know what that's from, or what is it? Was it just a thing you listened to a long time ago?
It was a filmmaker. He's the guy who did Cloverfield.
Okay.
I can't think of his name right now. He did Cloverfield and Battle. He's done all these sci-fi movies.
Didn't he do? Am I crazy, or did he do like a long video that was like explaining why the death of Superman was terrible too? Right? It's that guy.
Well, let me find out then the guy's name. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Okay. While you're looking, save that name, because I'm going to take a break for about a minute, and I'm going to play the advertisement that that Philip made for Jacob's apartment. So it's a good time to like break and stretch and get water if you need it. So here we go, and then I'll be back in a minute. Here it is.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon, or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts, and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go buy Jacob's Apartment.
Awesome, and that's all it took.
Fantastic, Phil.
That was really great. I tell there might be a Jim Lujan one coming soon. So
I can't wait to make one, but I haven't read the book yet. So
you definitely got to check it out. I have, again, like I have to. I'll tell you what. By the time I finish Detective Perez, we'll both have finished each other's.
Yeah, for sure. It's not long. Your book does not have long on my bedstand. It's going to be read. So
yeah, well, it's cool though. Like, again, like it is one of those things where I think all of us probably have like a big stack of stuff we got to get to.
Yeah.
The one thing that's ironic about like creating comics and animation is like you wouldn't really be making them if you didn't love the things, but because you're busy making them, you have like less time to read the things you love, which might be a good thing. Like that's, on that list of things that aren't making things, maybe I should actually do a little bit of time consuming them again. I did watch like the first few episodes of The Sandman recently. Yeah, it's really good.
yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Also watch Primal.
Nice.
Even
I
a
haven't seen that yet.
Oh my gosh, that was really good.
Yeah, Primal.
Yeah, it's Jenny Tartakovsky.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's on
nice.
Amazon. It's costs like $8 for the first season. It's 5,
Okay.
so
Hmm.
that could be, one of those things where you could relax and enjoy, but you're still, as far as storytelling and cartooning and stuff, you're still kind of in your wheelhouse there, Josh. So,
It's a good call. It's a good call. All
so the
right.
filmmaker that I was talking about was Neil Blomkamp.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't make Cloverfield. I was mistaken on that. He made like District 9 and Elysium. I don't know if
Oh, I love District 9. He the actor in it as well?
he's the director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And sci-fi kind of, end of the world kind of stuff. So
Wow, that's great. Yeah, District 9 is like a freaking masterpiece, that thing. It's so well done.
yeah.
And it was so unique. Like I haven't really seen a take like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just, I don't know, like a stunning thing.
Yeah. So he was talking about like of some films that he was just talking about stories that he wants to work on, It was really fun to listen to that, so because I think that's what we're all doing, right? We're always, I don't know, that's what I'm always assessing over.
Gary just said, back in my anthropology days, I read one explanation for the invitation in thing with vampires. The basic idea was that the vampires are magical beings, thus beholden to magical concepts like home. Interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you
then
gotta invite him in. I don't think
Philip was saying he was going to jump in. Yeah, that's totally okay. Hop on in, dude. And then Creed also just said, hey, and that he's lurking. We're glad to have you, Creed.
Creed Stonegate.
Mm-hmm.
What can Creed give us a background on that name? Is that
Yeah. Is that the actual name, or is that like a nom de plume, like Apollo
it
Creed?
sounds like a Jim Luhan character, like Jim Luhan had this great character, what was it called? Stan Rudeford or Rude Stanford or something like that. It was a movie, like a super macho movie star.
Oh, that's right. I forget the name of it, but it's the cop, right? The buddy cop guy.
He was Stewed Radford, I think, was his
That's
name.
it. Radford is a great last name.
Hey there, Philip.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Can everybody hear me okay with the? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you all right.
Yeah, okay.
How's it going, man?
Not bad, not too bad. I'm doing okay.
We played your wonderful trailer.
I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I'm used to it. Yeah, I remember you sort of put that out, and it was late one night. It was like 3 a.m. It's one of those nights where I'm still like wide awake, and I know I'm not going to go to sleep. And I thought, I'm going to turn on the camera and do this. It was like 3 a.m. I shot this thing like really quick, and then I edited it the next day.
It's really nicely done. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
It's awesome.
By the way, in case I haven't been punched in the eye. I have something called a Clausian, and it's like a blood clot. It's caused. I get them every once in a while on my eyelid,
Oh
and
no.
it's swollen up a bit. So I have to keep putting hot water on it every once in a while, and it will go away. But it looks like I've been punched in the eye. So in case you're wondering, like, what happened to Bill, that's all that is.
I hope it doesn't hurt.
It itches a bit, but it's not painful. It just you feel it.
That's brutal, though. It's too bad that like, so those just kind of come and go.
Yeah, it's. I used to work at a thrift store a few years ago, and I got something in my eye. I got some dirt in it, and it's damaged the eye inside of the eyelid.
Oh
So
wow.
unfortunately, it's just something now that because you have veins that go back and forth through your eyelid, which is where your blood flow kind of goes that way. And so what's happened is it's damaged the veins inside, and so every once in a while it'll clot a little bit, and then it just causes causes it to swell up a little bit and turn red. And the only thing you can do is just put hot water on it a few times a day with like, just take a hot cloth, put it on it for like 15 minutes or so, and it will eventually then kind of loosen it. But it's a random thing. I could wind up getting it again next week. I could wind up going another 2 years. But unfortunately the damage is done, so I kind of have to live with.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess that just kind of happens, you know. Man, Creed explained the origin of his name here. He said he got the name from an old Vampire the Masquerade character, and over time it became the thing he goes by in real life as well. Huh.
Awesome.
That's rad. So it's
right, a vampire name, huh? I love it.
Yeah. RPG, and it's great how funny. I feel like we have a vampire theme going on the show so far.
Right. The other thing is, why do vampires not show up in mirrors? That's what I want to know.
That is such a just wonderful like lore thing that I'm like, whoever, I guess it was probably, that must have been originally in, I think that was in Bram Stoker's. But like, what an inventive and fun thing.
Yeah.
Is it because they're, I would have to kind of read up on that.
Because they're dead? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, are mirrors like a realm that, you know, I don't know. Is there something spiritual about mirrors or something?
I don't
know. Philip, have you ever wanted to work on like a vampire story or anything like that?
I guess I never really thought of working on a vampire story. I used to watch like a lot of the old movies growing up because I was big into like B movies and old horror movies. And my mom liked watching them actually, and so I used to kind of grow up watching with her. But and I think even for school, I think it was like grade 8 or something like that, we actually read as part of our reading Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Nice.
You can believe that. Yeah, we read Dracula and read Frankenstein. I remember we had to read those 2 books and do reviews on them. So, and it was fun to do that. And I think, but being kind of more of a cartoonist, like around, you know, I'll do cartoons based on those sort of things for fun. But I've never done any, like, as far as doing any serious illustrations, I've never done anything like that. But
nice.
And actually, I'm actually doing I drew these last year, but I drew them a bit too late. But I did a series of something to be made into stickers for Halloween. I should be trying to put them out by next week if I can, fingers crossed. But I do things I called Hallowbeans.
I love it.
Shape. I took a bean shape and I did all the Universal monsters, their heads in this bean shape, and they're all little individual faces stickers. It was Frankenstein, but I've got like Frankenbean, Bride of Frankenbean.
That's perfect.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. That kind of thing. So it's this whole series of about 8 of them. So I'm hoping next week to get those put out. So get them up on Etsy.
I love that. And a bean shape is a fun shape to cartoon in. Like, that's a good project, actually.
So I tried to get them out last year, and just too much was happening, and I got them started late. I finished them, but it was like right up to Halloween by the time I got them done. So,
man, Halloween themed stuff sounds fun. Like, maybe that's what I'll do when I'm done. I know I'm going to have about a week of recuperation when I'm done with this monster of a book. And so I'm either going to be like oil painting, or maybe, I don't know, Halloween themed stuff would be fun. I'm always inspired by the stuff like Rhodey does, like Rhodey Matiho, who's buddies with Lujan. But his Halloween themed stuff is like some of my favorite illustrations, because he does that, like, you know the old vintage like Black Cat illustrations, that were like huge in where it's like it would be like a 3-color print job, or it'd just be like this crazy yellow, crazy orange, and black, and that would be it. He does a lot of those, like that style.
I love Halloween. I've always wished I'd had time to do more around Halloween, but between work and everything else, I seem to feel like I can never fully enjoy it as much as I'd like to. But I love doing stuff for Halloween. I wish ahead of time to put out like videos and merch and do all kinds of stuff for it.
Well, I'm excited to see these hollow beans. I think it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like you're on track this year to nail it.
Yeah, I would have liked to have gotten them out maybe last week, but there's just a little bit of an issue with getting the sticker. I'm going through Sticker Mule, and it's just having a little bit of an issue with getting them set up properly on the cards, because I'd like them set on like a single card where people can just peel them off.
Oh, nice.
But they have to be done like a really specific certain way, and it's they're really fussy about it. So
That's awesome, though. So in theory, it's going to be like all on the same sheet.
that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'd like to. There's a possibility I may have to split them onto two separate ones, do 4 and 4, but that's kind of the goal. Yeah, is to have them all on kind of one set.
All right. Well, when you have those for sale, let us know so like we can, promote it.
Oh,
and
for
stuff.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
They're also going to go on my Facebook. It's my plan to put them on like my Facebook banner, and they'll be up on Instagram, and I'll be
Awesome.
promoting the hell out of them. So yeah, for sure. So everybody will know.
Exciting. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Paul, do you ever do like Halloween themed stuff?
I don't think so. No, not really. No, I love Halloween though. I like going to Halloween parties. Last year I went to Halloween party and caught COVID. That was awesome.
Oh no.
But I went as Rocky, and so did my wife. So we had dressed up. I just think it's so much fun dressing up for Halloween.
It is. It is super fun. I always feel like I never start early enough on my costume. And then we'll have every year for Artcasters, we have David Hartman on. And that guy does Halloween like harder than anyone I've met. Like I think him and Scott are both like the very serious Halloweeners. Like they literally do like Halloweeners sounds really weird. I just realized that. But yeah, they go all out. Like David will do like he does a thing on his block where he turns his entire house into like a horror movie house.
Wow.
But it's like it becomes a haunted house at 12 midnight, and then they break it down at 12 midnight. So it's like this house that just appears haunted on Halloween. And then Scott gets really into it too, like which makes sense because he always like does all that crazy awesome fabrication and stuff,
Yeah.
But for me, I usually I love doing it, but I just forget until it's too late. Which reminds me, maybe I should try to like order something early, build something early,
Yeah, last year my friend of mine, Josh, he's in a punk band.
Nice.
And so they were having a Halloween concert.
A punk band similar to No Saboteurs, who have 2 albums out that you guys can check out on Spotify and Apple Music right now.
So I go to this Halloween party, and we had a great time. We had fun. I'm telling people at work about it, and they're like, well, what punk band is he in? And I'm like, it's the I don't know anything about punk bands, but it's the Misfits. And they're like, dude, that's like a famous punk band. So my friend's in a Misfits cover band.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I thought he was in the Misfits, but apparently I don't know. I swear. So when you guys start talking,
is your friend's name like Glenn Danzig by any chance? Like,
well, yeah, when you guys start talking music, Josh, I'm just like so clueless. You're like, this band's great, da da da, and I love it because the band names are awesome. I've never heard of any of them,
Well, I feel like the thing that and like we can probably all speak to this, but it's like the thing that I find awesome about getting older is like when I was younger, I was a real music snob. Like I would think like some people were like musically illiterate and stuff and like be all kind of cocky and stupid about it. But as I've gotten older, I've started realizing like, that's not the case. Like I know nothing about music. Like I know about specific genres of music. And then even in those genres, just a little bit. Whereas like Paul, if we're talking like funk, I feel like you have probably a much broader knowledge of like funk and soul and like, you know, so actually like I don't know, I kind of think one of the beauties of that I'm finding of getting older is just realizing like how little
Yeah, for sure.
like how little I know about anything. Like, like
You become so much dumber as you get older because you realize you don't
Yeah.
know. You realize there's so much more you don't know.
yeah, where it's like, you know, when you're younger, you learn about like 5 bands and you're like, I know the whole history of rock and roll. You know, like it's yeah, but Creed has a great thing here. If I can find it. He said there's only 2 parts of the year, Halloween and the long 364. Nicely said.
Right on.
Oh, here we go. I think Gary might have the answer to mirrors. Old mirrors were made with silver, and silver is so dangerous to vampires in the old world lore that it even kills their reflection. And he said, I am a repository of useless knowledge. That was very useful for us. Thank you.
Yeah, that solved it. I can sleep tonight.
Get the okay. And then I think we're caught up on chats. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm feeding the people who are watching us too, because you guys are keeping this show fun. It's always, I don't know, I love these streams because it's like a way to kind of hang out in the studio while you're working, you know?
Yeah, I wish I could work. I love listening to them while I'm working, but I cannot talk and draw at the same time. So
Yeah, I can't talk and draw, but I can talk and shade. Does that make sense?
is that? Are you serious?
Yeah.
The shading part is what you're comfortable doing?
Yeah, I'm cozy doing that while I'm talking or coloring, but like drawing, like really hardcore drawing, I need to be in the zone. That's usually when I won't stream. I'll just kind of listen to other people. I can listen to people. I just can't like, I'd be the most boring person on the planet.
Yeah, I tried a couple times and it's like, you know, I can't even shoot. If I wasn't drawing, I couldn't do a stream like you doing, Josh.
I don't know.
It's not talking. I can barely speak English as it is.
I think I've always had the problem in my life of talking too much. So it's like the streaming platform just kind of allows me to like ramble, which is like, I think out loud, that kind of helps too. Because, which can be a benefit or a negative, because I'm not really good at like holding secrets. That's one of my weaknesses, because again, like I think through things as I'm talking, you know.
Yeah.
It's a strange blessing and a curse to have, but it happens to be a pretty good thing to have for live streaming, I guess.
I think I need to like work out my problems. I have to talk through them, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think
my wife, she's a real quiet person. She can sit there. If she wants to work something out, she just needs some quiet time to think about it.
Yeah.
How can you work it out? You got to talk through it, man. You know, everybody's different. So
yeah, my wife's the same way. We have a similar dynamic where she'll kind of just think through things and needs quiet to think. And for me, I'm like, I got to talk about stuff. Like I just have to.
Yeah.
It's funny. Maybe it's kind of one of those things of like that sort of opposite balancing each other out kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Philip, what are you working on? Are you working on your stickers right now? Is that what you're working on?
Not at the moment. I've actually got to call Sticker Mule tomorrow to try and figure something out, but I kind of got a couple of small projects here on the go. I'm actually tonight I'm trying to figure out how to create a brush either in Clip Studio or in Photoshop, and I'm not having a very good go of it. But I want to be able to take something and be able to create a brush with it, like a certain small pattern that I can actually, and I'm not having much success at it, unfortunately.
Pattern brush.
Yeah, I wish I knew off the top of my head, but I don't.
Yeah, I wish I knew off the top of my head too. I know how to make a pattern brush really effectively in Illustrator, but I don't in Photoshop or
even just a regular brush to be able to like take take something and then how should I put it? Like you scratch something down and you want it. You want this as a brush to be able to repeat as you're drawing it. If that makes sense. I guess that would be a pattern brush.
Let's see here.
But it's something I'd have to kind of. I think I'm just going to have to kind of open up the Googles and look up and.
Yeah, I guarantee there's got to be like a good YouTube tutorial because I can do that on Illustrator, but I never really use super like repeat pattern brushes in Photoshop. But Illustrator I could show you because in Illustrator it's like it just has to be within a square and you can literally just drag it into your color palette.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's how it works.
I was trying to do it with Clip Studio, and I even went to the Clip Studio page and was trying to read how to do it, and it's there. But it's one of those things where you're reading the instruction and it says, now go over and click on this. So you go over to click on it and it's not there. You've been following all the instructions. One thing they say, click on this button. Like, it doesn't exist. I have the latest version of it, and I'm like, this is what you're describing is not what I'm looking at here. So now it's like I've hit this roadblock, and at this point, I have no idea what to.
Man, I wish like Corey was here or Scott because they would nail it. They would know exactly what that is.
Oh, is that right?
I don't work in Clip Studio, so I'm like, I don't even know how to open Clip Studio.
Yeah, I have Clip Studio on my iPad, and I've made a couple of comics out of it, and it's pretty sweet.
I have the desktop version. I've had it for years, and I've always really liked it. It's a similar interface to Photoshop. It's similar but very different at the same time. But I love using Clip Studio. The desktop version is nice because it's just like a one-time payment. I wanted to get it for iPad, but I guess it's like a monthly.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yep.
But
yeah.
Hey guys, I'll be right back. Okay.
No problem.
But feel free to keep.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. So, Philip, where in Canada are you?
I live in a small city called Burlington, and it's right near Toronto.
Okay.
If you're familiar with it. It's part of what they call the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area,
Okay.
along the lake. And I don't know if you're familiar with that area.
I used to go to Mississauga every now and then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, that's not too far. I'm right next to Hamilton, if you know. Like my place, my location here in Burlington is actually almost borderline right on Hamilton.
Okay. Gotcha. I think it's a 7-hour drive from where I live right now. So.
Oh, okay. Where are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Michigan.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it's not far. Yeah. I grew up in London, Ontario, for the most part.
Which is a 4-hour drive from here.
Where Christopher's from, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny that we even went to the same school,
Really?
like a year apart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the degrees of separation. You know, I think that Paul can attest to this, but like I think Jim Lujan somehow is connected. Like there's the 3 degrees of Jim Lujan with like every animator and cartoonist.
Yeah.
Javier too. Javier is another one of those like bridge builders where like almost everybody knows Javi, like somehow.
If somebody in animation, somehow it'll be connected.
Yeah, it's weird.
The way I met Jim was Jim and I became friends just online, through animation, and probably 8-9 years ago, and about a year or two after I got to know him, he was working on that film Revengeance with Bill Plimpton, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're going to Bill and I are going to meet in Iowa for some film, to show the film Revengeance, or show." They were in the middle of working on it, so they were just going to show pieces of it and talk about it stuff.
Right.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's wild, because I'm going to be in Iowa at the same time, because my mom and my 2 sisters lived there at that time." Mm-hmm. And so we just happened to coincidentally be going there at the same time. So we met up, and that's how we met in person.
That's rad. That's awesome.
And I got to know Bill Plimpton. That was fun.
Yeah, Bill
Wow.
Plimpton, that's amazing, dude. That guy's a legend.
Yeah, he's the way he draws is just kind of nuts, man. It's super. Well, the way Jim draws is super fun too.
Yeah, it's great. Jim's output just blows me away. Like I'm still stunned by like how does that guy have so many movies under his belt, you know? And I see him do it, and it's like I still am mystified. Like, how does he do it?
You know, I think he's very steady and very and balanced. You know, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, Josh.
Yeah,
And so, but he's consistent. You know, I think he has certain times that he works on stuff, and that's when he does it. And you know, and he's got a bunch of stuff in the can, and he's just so creative too. So
yeah, like he's definitely like he's not somebody suffering from like writer's block.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
right, yeah. I feel like I don't have a whole lot of stories in me. You know, they've got like a limited few. And yeah, he's got you know like stuff that he's just tossing out the window. You know.
Oh, I love it. It's one of the funnest things to get Jim talking about is just like his backstories of his characters. Where
Right.
it's like he'll have this guy in the background scene of a thing, and he has like the guy's whole life story worked out.
Like the Stu Radford character, you know, he's just a bit piece in one of his films, but you know, the whole story behind Stu Radford was hilarious. You know, he's this washed up movie star, you know, guy. Yeah, and what a name, you know.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes Jim makes me want to write. Like
Yeah.
the downside of these graphic novels, they take so long, you know,
Right.
that it's like, man, I'll probably get through maybe like 2 or 3 more stories, you know,
Yeah.
possibly.
And
Maybe
you're
4. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm excited about this one though. Like it's fun to work on someone else's story for a little bit and kind of bring life to it. It's
Yeah.
been really fun because it's like I'm also a fan of this script. So
Right.
it's like I feel it. I was trying to explain this on a different stream. Maybe you guys can touch on this, but I feel like when you're working on an animation or a comic, like you almost get the experience that the person reading it will get or watching it will get, but you're getting it in like slow motion. So it's like the slowest motion possible, but
Yeah, it's brutally slow.
yeah, but like, you know, this page I'm working on toning right now. It's like you know, they're mentioning seances and I'm like excited because I know this guy they're talking about and he's a big character in the story and I'm like, yes, we're finally there.
Yeah.
And it's like a weird feeling because it's like, well, I'm making the thing, but I'm also really excited about it because I'm like, oh, it's gonna get to this really fun part with the villain, you know? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to experience, you know.
I'm looking forward to the seance part of your book.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that. A lot of that. A lot
Yeah,
of
I can't wait to read your Jacob's Apartment. Two stories was just awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
I am going to order 2 stories. Frank kind of talked me into ordering his book, and so I thought, okay, I've got one of yours, I'll get one of Frank's, and then before the end of the month, I'm gonna order 2 stories.
Cool. Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think about it. It's a
Definitely.
heavier
Oh, yeah.
book.
Oh, is it really heavier than Jacob's?
Well, it's weird. It's like
Uh-oh.
it's heavier, but it's happier.
Okay, all right.
Like the ending isn't as heavy, but the content starts pretty heavy. So
All right.
Well, and as far as just like comic booking, though, I mean, to me, it's just I told you, Josh, it's a masterwork. You know, just the storytelling in comics, everything you can do is in there. You know, it's awesome. The art is great. You use different kind of different styles in it because you're telling kind of 2 stories, and different kind of pacing and the frames, and just all that's just so cool. And then it works great with the content, the story, the body of the story. Yeah, so I loved it.
Thank you. I'm excited about that. I'm doing a thing where I'm slowly chipping away at the second volume, kind of at like pause points on this book, just as like that's like my little break. But I'm gonna try to kind of slowly carve those pages because I'm like about 26 pages into that one too.
Nice.
But there's not going to be a ton of progress on that while I'm working on this book. Oh man, my kid is asking a question, so I gotta go check on him. I'll be right back. Sorry. What's up, John? What do you need?
I'm getting sleepy, Philip.
I'm a night owl. I'm going to be up for like another 2 to 3 hours or more. So I work a part-time job at the YMCA.
Okay.
It's a basic cleaning job, nothing special. But I always work closing shifts, and so I work right till midnight. I come home and I'm kind of still wound up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after you work, it's only part time, so it's about 4 or 6 hours. But I kind of want to go home and work on something. I want to open up. I've just been like mopping floors and running an auto scrubber for 4 hours. I want to come home and actually want to sit down and draw something, make something. So I'll come home, I'll grab some food, and then I'll open up the computer and even if it's just doodling, even if it's just whatever, if it's even not a project, and just to do something and just to kind of. So by the time I go and I lose track of time, on some nights it's been like 3, 4 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, where did the time go? And it's like,
those are nice. That's nice when you're drawing and then you lose track of time.
Yeah. It's hard to do that before I go to work because I know if my mornings are always busy. Like as soon as I get up, well, early afternoon by the time I get up, but there's always things to do. There's always shit going on here, and I've got to do things. And then I got to get ready for work. So it's hard to actually want to start on something when I know I have to go to work on that day.
Right, I got you.
So
it's the opposite. I love the mornings, and the mornings for me are the best and the best time of the day for me. My brain feels most turned on, So I spend that time drawing.
I used to be like that, and I miss it, to be honest with you. But now my whole what's it called? Your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that means, but I say it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm definitely a work at night guy,
Yeah.
But I do think I need to switch some things around a little bit,
You'll figure it out, Josh, right?
Same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just telling Philip I'm getting sleepy, so I think I'm going to check out.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks, Paul, for tuning in.
And, man, thanks for having me. I love your stream. I love the Artcasters community. It's really a lot of fun.
It's surprising, but it's like a good community online. They actually do exist.
Just earlier, I was listening to Gary and Squatch.
Yeah, that was great.
And I was I laid down to take a nap, and I saw they were on. And I'm like, oh, well, this is just great. So fell asleep.
I caught that. I caught some of that earlier today.
Yeah, they had a great conversation,
I love how thoughtful Gary is about process. I think it shows in his writing too.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, cool. Paul, where can everybody check out your stuff? Where can they get the Detective Perez stuff? If you guys were interested in vampires.
Yeah. It's a hard-boiled detective, noir type story. But I love vampires, so you just got to throw those in, why not? And I think the second book is about a serial killer because you can't really do detectives very long without having a serial killer. So
that's true.
You can, if you go to paulpate.com, you can find links to all my nonsense. And one of those links is to my books, which are the Detective Perez graphic novels, and those can be bought from Amazon. So
I love it. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for joining, man. And I can't wait to see more of that animation too, because it just looked really stunning from the bits we could see. You know.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to finish it as well. Well, good chatting with you, Philip. Good to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
In
Yep.
person, so to
Sure.
speak.
All right. Chat again sometime.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
We have Ruthless Tactics said, it's great to hear you guys. And then I guess we're being watched by Scott as well. Scott, feel free to hop in if you want. And then Keith Harper said, oh man, I missed it. I don't think you did. Maybe we missed something. I don't know. I think we're still going live. So yeah. Oh, maybe he was talking about Gary's Squatch thing, I would guess. Yeah. So Philip, how are you doing, man? Like, how's everything going?
I'm doing okay. I'm trying to juggle a lot right now going on because things are still kind of happening.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to kind of juggle things a lot between my work. I have a roommate that's moving out, and trying to help him. He can't stay, unfortunately. There's a bit of a long story behind that. I don't want to sound like I'm this mean roommate that's kicking him out, but we kind of, unfortunately, he can't stay. Um, the really short story is that I have a 2-bedroom place, and there's just certain building laws in this area that we can't have 3 people, and he was supposed to be short term anyways, and so after incidents happened with the bed bugs last June and that kind of thing, shit kind of hit the fan, and he kind of has to go. He can't stay.
Yeah.
He's down to
That's
landlord.
understandable.
And yeah, and so
I've had roommates before, and I've had bad roommates before. I get it. You know.
But he's having he has a lot of difficulties, and he has a lot of social problems, and I'm trying to sort of help him without him kind of going into a meltdown.
Yeah.
And so he has to be out by the 1st of October, and he still hasn't sort of he hasn't found. He's trying to find a place. He hasn't just solidified one yet, and it's been difficult. Like,
yeah,
even
that is tough.
Even just to find like a room, most of the like how it's expensive out this way, and so he's just looking to even like share a room, like a house, like any place where they're renting a room out, and most places are looking for females, so it's been hard finding
rough.
Finding the place. So yeah, so I've been trying to. So between doing that and work has been juggling the hours because people have been sick, and so I end up getting called in for an extra shifts here and there, and then wanting to do my own thing. Just kind of trying to keep my own kind of head level through all this. So
yeah.
So because once the roommates moved out, there's going to be a big shift of all our stuff. I have to, like, this office is kind of going upstairs, and I have to kind of get that ready. Has to be repainted upstairs. I can finally kind of
That'll be kind of nice though, for you not to have to take that extra trip to the office, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about this is it is private, so it's handy that way. And we're still going to have this as storage and as sort of an extra little office space to work. But my main working area with the computer and everything is all going to be upstairs. So yeah. So, which is going to be the internet will be better. Like right now, I just have these extenders, so sometimes the internet will crap out down here, and it'll. So yeah, it's. I'm kind of looking forward to when I can kind of do that. So it'll take about a week or so for all that to happen. But
yeah, it's tough to work during transition type times like that, where it's like there's some big shifts of things happening, and so like you're kind of sounds like you're kind of eager for the dust to settle.
Yeah,
to get to that
point.
point.
Yeah, I really am.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a tough few months. Kind of just
Well, I enjoyed coming on the stream. So, how did you meet those
yeah.
the guys you stream with?
So Enrique, I found his YouTube channel years ago, and just sort of started commenting on YouTube. We just ended up, and because I was doing caricatures and that was something he liked, we ended up just sort of chatting back and forth. We started following each other on Instagram. He wanted to do this little thing where he wanted to interview a few artists, and we came on and we talked for like 2 or 3 hours one night, and we just sort of kept in touch ever since. So we kind of, became sort of online friends through that, and
It's awesome.
yeah, and then we built up. I came to this idea where I wanted to do live streams and I wanted to talk with other artists through live streams and make a little community, something like I said, something like Artcasters. And he was all for it. He was like, "Yeah, we should do this." And he'll get his friend Vince on, because Vince he's known for years. I just met Vince through Enrique, so I don't know him very well, but
Nice.
but
Sorry,
yeah,
my kid is sorry. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
hang on.
Got it.
What's up, man? Oh. Yeah. What? All right, sorry about that. The kid what is this? Let's see. Gary said just got off the phone with Jim and he was wondering if you've thought up of a top 5. I have not. I didn't know I was supposed to think it up. I will try to think of a top 5 something. Maybe we could just talk about like top 5 books. That might be kind of fun. Like novel books.
I'm so not a reader.
Well, even I'm not saying like right now. I was just more thinking about like Gary and for Gary and Jim's thing. And then Scott was saying, not sure if Josh came up with the top 5, but I still want to do top 5 hip hop albums. I could talk about top 5 hip hop too. It's like we could have Scott and me on that one, I think, since we both like hip hop. I think Scott's knowledge of hip hop's a little broader than mine, though.
Even though I can just comment real quickly, I want to say hello to Scott, because I've actually been watching your channel for a couple of years, and I've always really enjoyed his stuff. It really caught my eye because I liked your workspace, the whole thing you had set up with the whole sort of what would you call it, like a
underground layer.
Yeah, and I was like, that is awesome. That's exactly something if I had the space and the materials, I would put something like that together. But yeah, I've actually gleaned a lot of good tips and a lot of stuff from his YouTube channel. So just to say, I really appreciate what you do. So
yeah, Scott is awesome. He's a powerhouse and he's inspiring, Yeah, for sure.
He's definitely got a fun
Scott through Kevin. So my buddy Kevin Cross was living here and he sort of introduced me and Scott. Like, I think I had known Scott before that because Scott was a guest on Big Illustration Party Time, which was like a podcast we used to do about illustration. Me and Kevin. And then we had Scott on for like one episode. And he was, I think a listener of that, and mainly Art and Story, which was another podcast that like Kevin was on. And so like we've known Scott for a long time, but that like I really got to know him being introduced by Kevin. And then yeah, his YouTube stuff is just incredible. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of his art hacks too are just incredibly cool, you know. And he said he's working on the underground lair.
An underground layer. Oh, okay.
And on an all new one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. It's like a little TV show almost, and I think that's why I liked it is that it's this little set that he has there, and it's reminds me of stuff I like watching growing up, and and watching things like I say you're watching like I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater or I grew up watching B movies a lot, right? And they'd always have these horror hosts in the afternoon, and they had these fun sets, and I
Yeah.
love that stuff. I absolutely love that kind of thing. So
Yeah, there was one that used to air down here, and I don't know where the original location was, but it was called Dumpster Piece Theater. And
oh really?
and it
No, I
was
haven't
like,
heard of that one.
yeah, it used to air like
Wow.
super late at night.
Right,
And it was, you know, puppets and like a trash dumpster set and all this
right.
fun stuff where they'd play like really bad B movies. And I agree. It definitely. I love the fact that I love Scott's aesthetic is kind of like that. For like it's very like B horror type thing. I love it.
Mhm.
I'm excited to see what the new studio brings.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Gary was saying that yeah, Jim wants me to pick one. Okay, I'm gonna say, geez, that's gonna be a hard one. I almost feel like we should make it a booze one. Maybe we could talk about top 5 boozes, and then you
Yeah,
have to
that
drink
could
the
work fun.
booze that we talk about on the show. I don't know. I'm between that and like top 5 books, just books in general. But I guess I'd have to set parameters to that, like what kind of books, you know? So you could have somebody be like, this book was my favorite, you know, I don't know. Could
Right.
be.
It's funny you mention that because I'm actually one of the things I really want to do once I'm set up with the new studio space upstairs is I want to start doing maybe once every couple of weeks I'm going to do like a book review because I've got a whole bunch of like art books and animation books and I thought I'd really love to kind of go through some of these and do a review on some of them. And,
Yeah,
kind of,
it's also a great way to like touch base with like books that you may have read a while ago and you haven't kind of picked up. Because I definitely find that with a lot of art books where they'll be on my shelf and it's like I haven't really picked them up in a long time. And to me, I think that would be the funnest byproduct if you do something like that. Is like
Mhm.
it's a way to also like revisit those books and be like, oh yeah, there's this thing, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. I've got I've got one I feel like I almost should talk about because it was so important to my schooling was I've got the Illusion of Life, which is the big thick Disney book by
Oh yeah.
two guys who are oh god I'm drawing a blank on them, two of the nine old men. But it's something I don't if for anyone who's getting into animation, if you can I know it's a hard book to get now. They're no longer in print, but you can still get them on eBay. You can find them. My first one that I got from college was stolen from me. So I had to actually, for years, I only had it in sort of a PDF form on my computer. And then eventually, a couple of years ago, I finally reordered a new one. Um, but I think it's something, if anybody wants to get into animation, that is like a must have book. I know they're expensive, but they're worth every penny. That thing is just a wealth of information.
Yeah, it's interesting how there's books like that that'll almost like they're almost like secretly passed around in like art classes, you know. Like there's those go-tos. I think it would be awesome. I'd love to see your reviews and stuff too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to doing them.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Sure.
We've got something weird going here.
One I randomly found at a thrift store that was on Nelvana, the animation studio in Toronto, and I worked at Nelvana years ago, so it might be kind of interesting to go through that. And since that's where I kind of got my first start, my first job in animation.
Awesome.
In my last.
Animation's tough, you know. The industry shifted a lot too.
Oh, it did. I did. I sort of arrived at the worst time. I'm using these to listen to because I wanted to avoid this any echoing issue, but the batteries are going to die on them. So was going to try and switch back to my microphone, but I don't want to cause any. Hopefully, it doesn't cause any kind of bouncing echoing issues. So
if it does, you know, that's cool. But let's find out.
Yeah, it's screaming at me battery low. So
okay,
not subtle. Jeez.
Yeah, those are. It's one of the downsides of like the Bluetooth thing is like when they start running out, you know. I also have the problem of I had a good set of Bluetooth headphones and I left them at my work and I haven't been to work in a while, so I need to remember to get them when I go back. So let's see if there's any slapback or how it sounds. It sounds pretty good so far. I'm not hearing my voice reflected back or anything. Oh, I think you're muted though.
There we go. Hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm not hearing any crazy like reflection or slapback. Yeah. You're on a Mac, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay, that is one nice thing. A lot of times Mac is pretty good at blocking that slapback. I've noticed.
Oh, is it? Okay. That's good to know. I have a Mac Mini, and it was the one of the new 2020 M1s that
nice
that came out. Yeah, I saved up for a long time for that. It has speakers kind of built into it. It's not the best sound quality. I'm gonna eventually get some speakers set up, but it's good enough for now. But it does at least have its own speaker built into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I work on one of the I forget what it's called. It's like the studio or whatever. It's like the it looks like the Mini, but it's like two of them almost like.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I have that one at my day job, not here.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Even in your day job, that must be nice stuff.
The one I'm on here is just an iMac.
Okay.
I think from like 2017 or somewhere around there. But what I will say from my experience working on that at the day job, it's like I definitely will either get a Mini or that. Like whenever the day. Unfortunately, hopefully not for a long time. So far, this is the nice thing about Macs. Usually, a Mac will last me about a decade.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping this thing keeps kicking for another, quite a few years.
I find they last me about 8 years before I'm ready to get a new one.
Yeah. And usually it's like they're about to die. That's usually when I replace mine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I find they start getting really slow.
Yes.
And you need something that's a little more, yeah. The M1 blew me away. When I got that, I had a 2012 Mac Mini before that. And when I got the 2020 model, I got it when they were brand new, and I was just turned the thing on, and within like 40 seconds I was surfing the net, I was working, it just boom. And I could have multiple windows open. There was nothing slowing down. I was just so absolutely spoiled by the thing.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Those M1 processors or whatever are just insane.
Oh,
you know?
just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's funny. I'm very impressed with that new line for sure. Let's see here. Getting these gradients going. So I don't know, Gary, what do you think about just books? Maybe I should say books without pictures. Because picture books would be like a whole different thing. And then you'd have to be like, well, what, comics or ooh, wait a minute. How about that? How about top 5 comics? Graphic novels.
That would be interesting.
That'll be it. Graphic
That
novels.
would be really interesting to hear what you guys have on that.
Either graphic novels or books. You tell me, Gary. Books like literary books or graphic novels, which would be really hard for me. Graphic novels would be really hard for me to boil down to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could do it though. Hey, we're at the hour mark, so I think I'm gonna I already played your trailer, and so I think I'll play the trailer for 2 stories, and then we'll be right back. So
Okay.
here it is. All right. Scott said the design was heavily influenced by T3K. Nice. And Beekman's World.
Yeah.
And then Gary said, it's up to you. You could do books, graphic novels, or you and Scott and Jim can all go with hip hop. Let's do that. If Scott's down to do the same one, I like that idea. Let's do hip hop. So Gary, pass that on to Jim. Hip hop. Sorry for being rude too. I'm eating a real quick snack.
Oh.
Hopefully somebody's not bothered by that as an audio.
%50 of the time, I'm usually have like a little snack with an arm's reach. I'm just like,
I know.
That can work kind of terrible that way, but
I try really hard to avoid like eating on stream or whatever, because
Yeah.
I know, it's not pleasant, and there's some people who really dislike it, but I'm going on hour 2 here, so I figure we're good. It always blows me away, like if you watch like Adam Lohr's streams where they'll go like, he'll do like a 20-hour stream, and I have no idea how he does it. Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know how somebody can keep that up.
And then Gary was saying he's going to let Jim know.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I want to hear Gary, even though Gary's saying he doesn't like hip hop or he's not really into hip hop. I want to hear Gary's top 5 as a person who doesn't know a ton about hip hop. I think that would be awesome. So I think it should be all 4 of us. Because there's got to be some
good for that.
hip hop that Gary likes. So what do you guys so you started doing the show. What is the what do you guys kind of do during the show?
Oh,
Like the
for
streams?
mine?
Mhm.
Yeah, we just started, and like literally you came into like the fourth or fifth one.
Nice.
And it's still a little bit rough around the edges. I mean, when it just started, we just kind of wanted to turn on the cameras and just sort of start, and we thought we're artists. We kind of want to, you know, we wanted to kind of build a little bit of a community as kind of inspired by Artcasters, similar idea. And we thought, let's just kind of get this up and going. And he takes them and he links them to his page as well when we do them. So, but we just, for the first couple of weeks, we were just kind of shooting the breeze almost and just talked about stuff we were working on. And then we were like, we should sort of have kind of a theme going here. And we were talking about, you know, different topics. And I suggested, I says, what if we have, you know, if we have other friends that are in the business or actually have produced things that have published or whatnot, have them in as guests. And that's where actually you came in. I suggested,
Nice.
listen, I know somebody who's put out a couple of graphic novels. That'd be really interesting to have them come in. And they were both all for the idea. They were like, yeah, let's bring them in and do that. So and that's where you kind of ended up into it. But
That was fun.
Likewise, I think he's gonna. I know. Enrique told me later. He says he really appreciated it. He got a lot out of that. So
Cool.
So, and I think he knows somebody he wants to kind of bring in as well. So we're gonna try and kind of lay out a little more of a tighter format each week now. So because it's we were just kind of, as I said, shooting the breeze for the first 2 or 3, but.
I think shooting the breeze is great though. Like that's the weird thing. Like even today, you know, when I'm about to live stream, I rarely have any idea of what I'm going to talk about, you know? And then today I think I had the rough idea of like, of digital versus traditional or something like that. But it's like,
we're talking about that at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, honestly, like, you know, I think like half the fun of these things for people is, you know, just kind of hanging out with other artists and having something, you know, playing in the background while they're working, you know. I think that's usually what like a lot of our audience, you know, enjoys or whatever, you know.
And we said the same thing actually, that it was almost kind of therapeutic in the way, you know, like you know, I go to work and I talk to other friends at work, none of whom are artists, and you know, I you don't really kind of have that kind of conversation with other people, and so it's nice when I can come on here and either listen or talk to other artists and the things that they're working on and be inspired or hear the kind of struggles that they're going through and how they're handling it and what they're doing and how this is working, you know, just have that kind of discourse with other people. And so I'm just for that to even come on like once a week like that is very therapeutic.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, the thing is like, that sort of thing is so essential too for artists because we need that like shot in the arm in a weird way. It's like you kind of need that that spark, like to be around other people who have that spark as well, because otherwise it's like almost like a spark that's not going to catch fire and become anything, you know. But like when you're surrounded by people who are taking like, I don't know, like for me, like knowing Scott is like working on like his projects and he's building a little studio thing and like he's working on these other things for clients and stuff like that. Like it gets me inspired to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. And I think vice versa, you know. So I don't know. I think that's a really good way to do it, you know. And I think that's half the appeal is like just kind of realizing that like it's just nice to have those artists, you know.
No, it's been kind of it's been nice connecting this way with you and with this community, and because I really didn't have much before that. There's artists out there, and I've even tried to kind of chat with some other people on through YouTube, and it's or some form of social media. I'll try and talk to some other people and just try and connect at some point. And people are just, they're busy with their lives, or they get, they probably get like hundreds of messages from other people. And I never, I know I was trying to at one point. I wanted to. I don't know if you're familiar with guy from Australia, Jazza, Draw with Jazza. For
No,
years.
I'm not. I
And
think Scott would be more familiar with like YouTube
yeah,
art people.
it was kind of frustrating, but he's kind of he has his life, and I got kind of frustrated with it. I tried to see if we can make some connection, but I wasn't important enough, I guess. So it didn't. Yeah, so that kind of didn't click. So I'm like, okay, so
it's interesting because I don't know. That might also just be like if the guy is like huge online, there's always that
yeah.
possibility too. Like, because right now, like one of the things I like about the streams is that like we're small enough to where like we can kind of engage with like every commenter, and it's a pretty tight knit little community. But if we
Yeah.
like exploded, I don't know if like if there's like 5 million people in the chats, I don't know how anyone keeps track of that.
That's
Honestly,
true.
like
Yeah.
it's got to be really tough. So I have no idea, but I do really enjoy getting to know the fans of the show, and like I enjoy like um like I kind of enjoy the fact that like even using the word fans isn't really appropriate with our community because it's just a community.
Right. Yeah.
I like that. And I hope that'll follow, like, no matter how big we grow. I know like Scott, for instance, has like a pretty substantial following on YouTube, and he still takes the time to kind of really get to know his community. And so I think it's possible, but I don't know how big the guy you're referring to is. Like, if he's huge, like
Yeah.
it might just be a matter of just not being possible, at
He
the
has
size
about
that we're
5.
on.
He's up to 5 million subscribers now.
So
Five and a
there we
half.
go, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're doing a live
But,
stream and like there's just comments flying past every second, it's like that
yeah.
must be really hard to keep track of. I don't know how I would. I mean, I'd try. I'd at least try to keep tight with like the core audience. Like the originals. But
At the time I tried to contact him, he was just reaching 1 million, and he just seems to keep building and building every year. So
yeah, so that's got to be
at that
tough.
point,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, that's not going to go anywhere. So yeah.
But it is nice. I do like that about our community, that we're pretty tight knit and we're not hard to reach.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm enjoying how this is coming out. It's just taking a while.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's looking really nice.
Thanks. I'm hoping. Okay, I think we're getting there. So what do you think about traditional versus digital? Like, what do you prefer?
I've been spoiled the last few years since I bought this tablet, because it's easy to fix mistakes. But I still love the sense of ink on paper. I've always said I'm a terrible inker, but I still really enjoy it, and I love watercolor. And I have a lot of supplies that have kind of just been sitting since I bought this thing because it's too convenient. But I really would like to go back to doing a lot more traditional work. There's something about the sensation of working with something physical, working right on paper, that just feels really nice. And I've also got all these alcohol markers I really like too, and I had bought these sets of them and these watercolor markers, and I'm yet to really make full use out of. when I talked about doing the children's book, I always said I'm going to do that traditional media. I'm not going to use the tablet at all, except to maybe if I have to fix like a really bad mistake and I don't want to redo a page. That's about the only point where I'll actually scan it and do that. But otherwise, I want it all full watercolor and ink.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I really want to return to that if I can. So even if I don't end up picking that book up, again, I still have some other things I want to work on. But before I bought the glass tablet, or the what do you call the monitor tablet, I worked on something like what you have, but I had one of those for like 6-7 years, and I could never. The hand-eye coordination was always off. I could never get, and it drove me crazy. But what I did end up using it for was I would still do, especially when I did some commission jobs, I would do it ink on paper, scan it, and then I could kind of tighten up some areas and fix them and clean them up, and then I would color it using that. I could kind of do, because I could do a little, just kind of drop and fill kind of thing, and or a little bit of airbrushing, and it was seemed to be easier to do. But for doing tight line work, I just didn't have the hand-eye coordination for it. But it was great for like doing the post work kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I still have it somewhere, but
yeah, it used to drive me nuts, that disconnection. But then I've gotten so used to it, and I've been working on this thing, one of these, forever, that like when I got like a Cintiq or whatever at work, I just like ended up turning the screen mode off, because it just
is that right?
yeah, because it just was slowing me down. Like,
interesting.
so it's weird. It's like you get kind of used to a way, and it's like, for me, for some reason, when I'm working digitally, it's like I'm just used to working this way.
I guess it's because I got so used to putting ink to paper and seeing that line directly underneath where you're drawing, and so you can see that.
Yeah.
And it was driving me nuts drawing over here and then looking over here, and I mentally, for some reason, my brain couldn't put it together. And
it makes sense. And what's weird is I don't know why my brain can, because I do a lot of traditional inking too, and it's just like, I don't know.
Some people can. Some people just, their heads clicks can make it click, and just mine wouldn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it.
But it's funny to me that I almost had the opposite, where now that my brain can, it's like it actually ends up being like a disconnect to have a tablet that I can see. However, I've heard that, that would probably, I might shift my perception if I got used to a like an iPad Pro or something, where there's like a real responsiveness to it. I have heard plenty of people say that would be like a game changer, probably. I have thought about getting like a laptop too. That's still something I might need to kind of consider with the amount of pages I need to work on. It just might actually make sense, but I don't know.
I broke down and got an iPad. I'd never intended to, because I thought I'd never need it. If I'm out somewhere, I have a phone, and I didn't want to lug around something. And if I'm home, then I have my tablet I can draw on.
Yeah.
And I guess my carrier, I'm with Fido here in Canada, and they had this really nice offer on an iPad about 3 years ago. It was just a base. I thought, all right, it's a really good deal. I'll get it, and I'm going to check out Procreate, because that's all I hear people talk about is Procreate.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll get it. Got the thing, got Procreate on there, got the, had the Apple Pencil, and you start drawing with that. Holy crap. It's just like butter. Like, wow. I was completely blown away. The drawing experience with that thing was just phenomenal. I'm like, I shouldn't have done this, because now half the time I'm on the tab on that, or half the time I'm on this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's really nice.
That's cool though.
I can see why everybody talks about this.
Yeah, I gotta consider it, because even if I just got like a laptop, I think that would be helpful for like being able to work more mobily.
Yeah, if you're still comfortable drawing like that and you can do it in a laptop, then yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
something I got to consider. The main thing is I'd want like the full Adobe Creative Suite, not just like the iPad version. The second they are able to do like the full suite on an iPad, I think that might be the day I switch over, you know.
The funny thing is they're kind of breaking it up. I get the feeling they're not sure what to do because they when I got it, because I have Photoshop, and the plan that I have is also you can have it for the desktop and you can get it on the iPad. And I thought they're taking a long time to catch up on the iPad. I thought they would have over a couple of years had time to eventually make it fully integrated for an iPad.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I discovered they released this thing called Fresco for artists.
Fresco's awesome.
And I guess they're divided it so that Fresco, that's Adobe's, right? I mean, I got the right name?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
so
like
I
the
guess
more painterly one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been debating it. It's just I've got a couple of programs for it. I don't know if I need to add another just yet, but I've heard good things about Fresco. So it sounds like they want to put more concentration in Fresco for artists, and then Photoshop a little more for photography. But the full separation there sounds like it's just not fully happening yet. So I'm not really sure what's going on with it. So I have Photoshop on the iPad, but I don't really use it on there.
Yeah, and I've heard it's kind of like you have access to some stuff, but it's not like the full real.
Yeah,
like it's like its own kind of version of Photoshop, you know.
I
don't know if that's the case though.
What do you use Fresco on the desktop?
No, I don't use Fresco at all, but I probably would mess with it more if I had like an iPad, you know.
Oh, okay. Just the way you said, "Oh, it's awesome." I was like, "Oh, so I guess."
I've messed with it, and it's like the thing that Fresco does that I think is pretty amazing. And like again, I only know this from just testing it on a friend's, but it has a responsive watercolor. And
okay.
so you can drop like
that.
you can pre-wet a page and then just drop, and it'll spread like realistically, and colors flow into each other. It's really interesting.
Nice. I've heard that about it. Yeah, I'd love to play with that. It's just it's an extra, I think $12 a month, I think, for it. I'm not sure if I want to do that yet.
Yeah, the subscription thing is just kind of a bummer because I do miss the days when you just like you'd have your big financial hit, you know, once every 4 years, you know, because they'd upgrade and it would be like, okay, now I actually need to upgrade my, you know, suite.
Right.
I don't like this, like you're just kind of forced to pay.
You know, Clip Studio is getting some heat now because they just announced they're going to be switching to something similar.
You can't blame them for doing it though, because it's like it is the more lucrative way. You're gonna force people to basically pay for upgrades all the time. You know
what they're doing it a little bit differently though. Is instead of just making the whole thing a subscription, you buy the base program, which is pretty cheap, and then you buy, I guess, what's it called, like a I guess like a yearly. I don't know if it's gonna be monthly or yearly. Like a pass kind of thing, which means you have access to all the updates through the course of the year. If you decide not to, that's fine, but you remain on the version that you have. But if you want to update, then you pay their subscription pass, and that way they said it's going to be cheaper. This is it's not going to be as expensive as say Photoshop or anything like that. It's still going to be not terribly. They haven't announced a price yet, but they said it's not going to be a lot. But people are kind of people are not happy right now about that.
Yeah, I think because a lot of people kind of started using it as like a alternative, I think, right? Yes. So them like choosing an alternative, and then the alternative is basically saying like, hey, we're going to be just like what you tried to get away from. It'll be interesting. But it's smart. I mean, it's like if I were like the CEO there or something, I'd probably make the same call because you're going to make more money that way.
Yeah, sure.
But it'd be nice if people didn't always have to think about like the fiduciary thing.
It's just something else you have to keep track of that's coming out of your bank account.
So what are you working on? Well, as we're talking,
So, so one things I'm also working on is I've had these I've had this little list of how should I put it? Sort of funny images and things that I've had kicking around for years, and the things that I wanted to make into kind of merch for conventions, because I didn't kind of get to do any conventions this year, but hoping next year, like I used to do, like go to Anime North, which is the big anime convention here, and I do caricatures at it, and they gave me a bit of a deal that I get the booth with them for free if I can do the kids, or so I get the booth for free if I can do the kids for free, but I can charge for adults. It says you can do any kind of merch, anything else you want, if we could just get you to do the kids for free. And I usually do really well every year. But I kept saying I want to get some T-shirts. I want to get some stuff made up. I want to get some prints, some fun things made up. And I've had this list of just funny things that I thought would make great as prints and T-shirts. And I've just started, and I'm also hoping to do the next year. I want to do the G-Fest, which is the Godzilla convention, because I grew up a big Godzilla fan.
Nice.
Yeah, I was.
All right, have you at all checked out like Gazbot's YouTube stuff?
Gazbots?
Yeah.
Why does that sound familiar?
Well, anyhow, so there's this guy Gaz Gretzky that's a friend of our of the show and has been on Artcasters a couple times, and he does like so much Godzilla and like Power Rangers art.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, but I thought just if you're a big Godzilla fan, he does like a lot of he even has a comic called The Horror A4 that's like about a giant mech versus a big kaiju.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gazbot. Say, I'm going to write that down real quick. Like G-A-Z?
Gazbot. Yeah.
Gazbot. Okay. I'm going to look that up.
Just because whenever somebody mentions Godzilla or something, if they're a fan, they'd probably like Gaz's stuff.
Since I was 5 years old, I've watched those movies, and and like a huge weird geek on the whole thing. I've actually even met, and I have the autograph, the first two actors who wore the Godzilla suit.
Oh, nice!
They got them to the Chicago convention years ago, and I have my picture taken with them. And so it's
that's awesome.
So one of the things I did, and I'm also a big Warner Brothers fan. I love the old Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, they're
that kind of
incredible.
Thing. And there's a rare one of Roadrunner from the mid to late 60s, where it was called Solid Tin Coyote. And in the episode, the coyote builds this giant robot coyote to try and catch the Roadrunner.
I remember this one.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And I always said, looking at it, I thought, that looks weirdly like the Mechagodzilla. But the coyote cartoon came first before they did the Mechagodzilla cartoon. And so I thought, as a spoof, I've got this. I took one of the classic 70s Godzilla movie posters of with Mechagodzilla, and I've changed it out to look like the Warner Brothers cartoon with a giant coyote. And it's sort of this goofy image. It's taking that classic poster and just sort of clashing those two ideas together into this one sort of goofy image.
Nice. Gary was saying to check out Kadoja as well, written by his pal Keith Foster. Nice.
Okay.
So
I'll got that down as well.
Yeah, Gaz is like one of the biggest Godzilla fans I know. He's also really into like Ultraman, which is great because I love Ultraman as well.
Yeah, I wanted to see the Shin Ultraman that was supposed to the new one that's kind of doing the rounds, and unfortunately it's skipping Toronto for some stupid reason. I was so mad. They got it in Montreal for one of their shows, and now we have TIFF coming up, and usually the Midnight Madness at TIFF usually gets those kind of movies, and we didn't get it this year for some reason. I was really kind of miffed about that. I really wanted to go see it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay.
Which reminds me, I got to check and find out what's playing for mid. I don't know if you're familiar with TIFF at all.
No, I'm not.
It's the Toronto International Film Festival, and it's usually a big deal every year. And one of my favorite parts of it is their Midnight Madness. And the Midnight Madness is where they usually show the kind of outrageous stuff from other countries. So you get your really weird, like Japanese horror movies or monster movies or
Nice.
international. It's the really crazy
That's...
stuff, and they're packed. The Midnight Madness is always packed, and it's like, yeah. And I one year that's where we saw. That's what Shaun of the Dead got it showing there when that came
okay,
out.
nice.
Black Sheep, which was from Australia, about the killer sheep. I remember that was a huge hit. But they'll get things like that. We saw the Gamera movies, the giant turtle Gamera.
Oh, nice.
Remember those? They played all of those at the Midnight Madness. So I haven't been in ages, and I got to see what's playing this year and see if I can try and get some tickets and go see something.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. We have some things like Cinesepia or something, which is like it's they'll take like the Hollywood Forever cemetery, and then they show like these classic B films and
nice.
Yeah, sometimes actual classics, but a lot of times like very corny movies, but they'll also do stuff like E.T., and then they'll have the cast from E.T. there and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, those are always really fun, but I haven't done those in years either. Again, like the weird part about being a cartoonist is like you just don't have time. Like
I can. I don't know how many. Growing up, we picked up a lot of stations from the Ohio area.
Oh, nice.
When I was living in London, and one of them we picked up was Channel 43, which I used to love. Growing up, it used to be like a great channel. And Saturday afternoons, they had this show called Superhost. Superhost, and it was this guy he was a sort of chubby guy who wore this sort of superhero kind of costume with a red nose. And he always played old B movies in the afternoon. He played two of them back to back.
Nice.
And he had that for like 20 years. He had this show. He just passed away recently too. He started kind of doing some rounds at conventions, and he found the old costume and put it on to do the conventions. And he just passed away like just last year, I think. It was disappointed to find out. Yeah, I was going to try and go see him at one of them, and then I heard he passed away. I was like, damn it. So yeah, but that's where I kind of every Saturday afternoon, man, I was like, had lunch and watched that show, and that's where I watched all the Godzilla movies, and he had all the old horror, like so he had some of the Hammer horror films, and he'd have some of the Universal horror films, and that was such a great show. I miss that.
Sounds incredible.
It was fun. He would start the first hour, he'd have like just like Three Stooges shorts.
Nice.
And then Laurel and Hardy and Three Stooges he'd do for the first hour, because it was set like his set was looked like a movie theater lobby.
Okay.
And it was kind of fun because he always had these like local announcements that he would make, things that were going on in the city, and people would send him in stuff. He'd show flyers, kids would send in drawings. He have a wall full of drawings, and it was just one of those very nostalgic things that I have fond memories of. But that's where I really got hooked on those old horror B movies.
That's amazing. And I love it's hard to explain the quality and joy of like a good old public access horror movie TV station. It's just like if you haven't experienced that growing up, you're missing out, because it was always just so fun to like almost stumble upon, like, oh my gosh, here's that show again, like it was just that's a fun thing.
If you go on YouTube and you type in Superhost, you'll see his little segues and his bumpers and that. Somebody's uploaded some of his stuff on there, so
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible. Okay, I'm gonna play. Philip, is it awkward if I play your commercial for Jacobs?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll just keep plugging away on what I'm doing here.
So here's a commercial for Jacob's apartment, and then
Yeah.
we'll be on our home stretch. So here it is. Okay.
Hi, my name is Phil Chandler. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. Today, though, however, I want to tell you about a graphic novel I picked up recently called Jacob's Apartment. This book was both written and beautifully illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It is the story of a doomed romance that causes the main character to question his beliefs and his faith, while he's also going through other tragedies in his life. Every page has been illustrated by hand and digitally colored with painstaking detail. It is an emotional story that causes you to think and even question things in your own life. And while the story is a tragedy, it is one that I was completely entertained by and I highly recommend. You can currently find this on Amazon or even check in with your local bookstore and see if you can order it. And while you're at it, you can also check out my Instagram at Phil Chandler Arts and also my YouTube channel by the same name, Phil Chandler Arts. And go buy Jacob's Apartment.
All right. Nice commercial again. Very well done.
Thank you. Hey, could I show something? I'm not necessarily plugging something, but just
No, sure.
So, one of the things I just did here earlier this year, one of the things I want to try and stick on my merch line. Some of the ideas I have is sometimes just comes out of a conversation I'll have with somebody. We'll be joking about something, and then
Yeah.
they'll bring about this idea of this crazy image. It's like, oh, I've got to put that down and draw it. And a few years ago, we got talking about when Doctor Who, I guess when it was going to be a female Doctor Who, and everybody was kind of flipping
Freaking out about it.
Female Doctor Who, and we started joking around with a couple of friends, saying, imagine if you like turned into a cat, because a cat has 9 lives, and I was like, Doctor Who is a talking cat. So I had to go down. I had to do it, and I actually made something up as a shirt, and I might actually try and sell these at the next convention. But this is one I just had a test done just recently, and
oh, I love it.
you can see it very well. But yeah, so that's this is a test shirt. I just wanted to see the print through. It's a bit glary, unfortunately. You can't see the glare, but yeah. So I wanted to try a couple of different print companies. So that's one of the things I did, and I had made up was that. So I'll be putting those up.
Awesome. It's cool. That's a great concept too. Just the lives. I hadn't made that connection at all.
We were just in a conversation making jokes about it with one of my roommates, and it's just that moment where you go, that would make a really funny shirt.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Another one I've done was, I don't know if you've heard of an old movie called Manos, Hands of Fate.
No, I haven't actually, but it sounds kind of amazing.
It's considered to be the worst movie ever made. It's so terrible they couldn't even.
It's like worse than The Room. Like,
oh yeah, it was so bad that they couldn't. It was made on a bet. It was on such a small budget they couldn't even have any sound. They had to actually dub the sound over after. And it has this huge cult following. The actress that played the little girl in it, it's a family that winds up on this this strange cult that has I don't even know how to describe it. The guy has this huge cloak that has 2 big red hands that comes up, who's the leader of the cult, and
oh man, I'm gonna have to check this out.
Traps, yeah.
Where can somebody see that now? Is that like available?
Wow. Yeah, I think it's on Tubi. They actually did a sequel in 2018. The movie was made in like 1966, and in 2018 they did a sequel called Manos Returns, just for fun. I think both of them are on Tubi if you can find it. But somebody actually got a hold of I think one of the original prints and did like a whole digital restoration of it.
Oh, wow.
So it's on Blu-ray. You can definitely find it online if you look. Mystery Science Theater has done it like a couple of times. Yeah, it's pretty terrible, but but people actually dress as these characters at conventions. And,
oh yeah.
the actress who was the little girl in the family, she's like one of the last remaining cast members that's still alive, and her name is Jackie Naaman Jones, and she's actually on social media, and she's become kind of famous over this role, and she takes it all with large grains of salt. I think it's because her father made props for the movie and played the master who with the big cloak, so she sort of got kind of connected with that film through her father. But as a joke, one of the things I made was I thought, oh, it'd be funny if they had like Mano's cereal box, and I made this whole design of having a Mano's cereal box, Mano's cereal of fate, and I did this whole design of it actually. So I finished it, and I'm doing a version I actually want to send to Jackie. Once I can make a shirt, I'm going to actually send her one. And
Oh, I love it.
yeah, so it's but if anyone on here, if there's anyone still listening, I'm wondering if anybody's heard of it or familiar with it.
Yeah, now I'm really curious. I'm gonna have to. That might actually be what I do, because I'm almost done with the toning that I needed to do today.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I might go watch
seen
that movie.
one.
You
This
know?
is, I don't know if you can see it very well. It's the cover for it there, the Blu-ray, but
Oh, I love it.
it's, if you can sit through it, it's a tough sit through, because there's scenes that there's like the editing is terrible. There's scenes that just drag and that are just so misplaced. And there's a character in it called Torgo, who's kind of the henchman, and he has he wears these big braces on his legs that he hobbles, because it was supposed to look like goat legs, I think, but it just looks like he's got these puffy, ridiculous legs. And it's just, oh god, it's
like wonderfully terrible is what
it
it sounds
is.
like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel that way about most Ed Wood movies, where it's like Ed Wood movies are really hard to sit through. Like, they're actually really hard to watch because they're
Some of them are.
so bad,
Yeah.
but they're so fun at the same time.
This is definitely going to be up there as one of them. It's even Mystery Science Theater said it was one of the hardest movies it was for them to riff, because they were like halfway through, they were just like, can we keep going with this? This is just so terrible.
Oh, now I have to see it.
Yeah.
I have to know.
Gary knows it. Gary says, yeah, Manos is indeed a classic.
I love it.
In a way. Yeah.
Sweet.
Hmm.
Well, oh, wait a minute. I almost thought I was done, but I'm not. Just when I thought I was out. I think we're almost there. It's just this this background. I just got to add a little gradation there. Yeah, I'm like really eager to
Go check it out.
I might actually go check that out like right after this.
I challenge you to make it to the end.
Oh man, I wonder if it would be better to watch the MST3K with it.
It might, because at least then you can kind of have fun with it. We'll just kind of, they do edit it a little bit, but
they cut it down a little bit, right, for the show.
Bit, yeah.
I might have to do that.
Because I think that's also on Tubi. Riff Tracks and MST, I think, have both done it. And I believe it's on. Do you have Tubi, or?
I don't think I do.
It's free, at least. It's
yeah, I could look that up too. Mm-hmm. So, oh my gosh, you guys! I finished the toning. Thank you, Philip, for keeping me company.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna have to go watch Manos. So if you guys have watched this this far, make sure you check out Philip Chandler. Philip, where can everybody find your stuff?
I post I like to post most of my work on Instagram. It's under Phil Chandler Arts, and the YouTube channel is also under the same name. It's a little bit weird, just because my channel was set up in this weird transition. I originally had it called Your Phil of Canada. Don't ask why. If you type in either of those, you'll find it, actually. So, but most my work I like to post regularly on Instagram. I've got to kind of get that back in gear. So I just Oh, well, that was on my story. Never mind. Scratch that. Yeah. Instagram is kind of my kind of go-to place usually, but
Okay.
yeah, but my YouTube channel still has some stuff up from last year, and I'm hoping to kind of get that back into gear again once I get the new studio set up.
Awesome. I'm
Get that-
excited
get
about
that
the new
back going.
studio.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you guys have been watching this and enjoy it, check out Jacob's Apartment as well as Two Stories, my 2 graphic novels. And anything else that we didn't mention?
There you go. No, that's good. I should probably call it myself. I might actually attempt to try and go to bed early tonight for a change. So
Hey, we
But
can both do this.
Yeah.
That's my goal too. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe Nanos might keep me up for a little bit.
All
the rest
right.
of it.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun chatting with you again.
Oh,
Really
anytime.
good talking
Yeah.
to you. Yeah.
Awesome. I love when I'm on a phase of the work process where I can have people on. So that was fun.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everybody who's watched this in the chats. And if you can, before you go, make sure you've hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Also, make sure you guys are following Philip Chandler on YouTube. You should. He's awesome. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night, guys.
Cheers.